Gets underway tomorrow night with the Chiefs hosting the Ravens. Kansas City starting their quest for a third straight Super Bowl title. Head coach Andy Reid.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, what we've got. I mean, that's always, I think that's probably with every player, every coach, every fan, every media person. Curious to see what you have and how you handle everything. But that's the best part about it. We'll see how it goes.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Macy's Labor Day sale is going on now with limited time end of summer specials like great deals on back to school looks, and shop our lowest prices of the season on furniture, mattresses, and more 15 to 65% off. Or use your coupon or Macy's card and take an extra 20% off even more great deals. Star Rewards members can earn faster during Star Money bonus days at Macy's. Details at Macys.com/Star Money. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Everybody, great job. Next up for our 5th grade class recital, we have Samantha.
10 times better performance can make a big difference. Castrol Edge Motor Oil gives your engine 10 times better high-stress performance. Castrol Edge, better oil for maximum performance. Now through December 28th, Castrol Edge and Edge High Mileage Motor Oil are on rollback at Walmart.
Claim based on Sequence 9 test under high-load conditions versus API-SP test limits.
There once was a dude named Sid. He never won and felt disgusted. He got the winning edge, his friends would allege, all for just listening to SportsGrid. If Sid can do it,
so can you.
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Off and running in today's edition of Football Full Circle, right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network, Sirius Channel 159. Lisi and Wetzel getting you prepped and ready for NFL action week number 1, the calm before the storm. Scotty, there is nothing better. NFL action kicks off tomorrow night. Some news and notes around the NFL. We see the Broncos signed star cornerback Patrick Surtain to a 4-year, $96 million deal. Sean Payton and the crew are looking for the playoffs this year, aren't they?
I guess so, Joe. These owners and GM, they don't get it. They could do this because their quarterback is a rookie quarterback and he's making chump change, right? But what they don't understand is, okay, they can do it, but they're upping everyone else's salary. You have all these teams that have these young quarterbacks that have money to spend versus, delegating $40, $50 million literally to a quarterback, right? So that's free money to them. But what they just keep on upping everyone else's salary in the process. I'll tell you, there's going to come a time, Joe, where the veteran quarterback, and I mean a guy 7, 8, 9 years in the league, he's not going to have any room because all the other guys are getting paid because the salaries are going through the roof. Good player. Would I pay him $25 million a year? I don't know about that. How many guys are going to a game to go see Patrick Surtain play? Is he going to make him a playoff team this year? Probably not. But, good piece to the puzzle. But, man, $25 million, $24 million, that's a lot of money.
It is, and you think about the situation now with Jamar Chase, there is news and rumblings potentially that he won't play in terms of that week 1 matchup against New England, 9.5-point home favorites over Gerard Mayo and Jacoby Brissett in regards to that matchup. I think it's amazing, too, when you think about, and we talk about these high salaries, right? All they are doing is printing money from the quarterback perspective. Now you see it at the wide receiver position in regards to what Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb got, and now it's trickling down in regards to the defense. And Surtain's a great player. I'm not going to take away in regards to what he's done in regards to Denver, right? But it's not like primetime is out there in terms of back in the day, right? He's not a game changer in regards to that. And you talk about this team with a 5.5 win total, somebody's going to be left holding the bag, Scotty, right? Whether it be an offense or a defensive player, these salaries are going through the roof. In the next year or so, you're going to see somebody like Le'Veon Bell where they opt not to take the deal, and all of a sudden they're going to be left holding the bag where the salaries are going to go the other way.
Yeah, and look what happened to Le'Veon Bell, right? His career basically ended after he held out. So
Yeah.
I got to see Jamar Chase, miss a game, Joe, miss a game check. Really, more importantly, right? I mean, and there isn't even a light at the end of the tunnel. He's got 2 years left on his contract,
Right.
not just one like all the like CeeDee Lamb and the others. He's got 2 years, and then at the bungles, right, as we like to call it, with Mike Brown. He could say to him, listen, you know what? I'm just going to franchise you. I got you locked in for 3 more years. You want to sit out 3 years? Knock yourself out. So I would be real surprised. It wouldn't make any sense. You're holding out for more money. So what are you doing? You're giving up a paycheck. Now, what kind of condition is he in? Where's his mindset if he plays this weekend? That's the concern for me. Not whether he plays or not, but is he really going to be trying?
No, I agree 100%, and they're going to need him, right? When you look at Cincinnati, big picture, plus 750 right now in regards to the Super Bowl odds. They're challenging Kansas City. As long as Joe Burrow and Joey Silk, as I call him, is healthy, they have a legitimate shot, but you need Jamar Chase in regards to that offense. What do you think? And we're going to jump into week 1 because I can't take it anymore. We kick off tomorrow night, but just to get your perception about tomorrow night's game, right? It's a rematch of the AFC Championship. Everybody talking about Lamar is coming off the MVP caliber and an MVP season last year, but he can't get it done. This offense, to me, needs an identity check. I'm sorry. I know they were a run-heavy offense. You bring in Derrick Henry, but tomorrow night, Scott, I need to see Lamar Jackson and that offense do it in regards to the passing attack. We know they can run the football, but when they're behind and trail, especially in a critical type of playoff situation, I need to know that Lamar and that passing attack can get going, and it starts tomorrow night in Arrowhead.
Yeah, pretty good defense to have a test with, right? I don't like betting on teams, Joe, that are 3 exact point home favorites. They tend to lose, believe it or not. I like Lamar as an underdog, 7-0 against the spread. Not so good as a favorite. Is Kansas City, I can hear people saying, is Kansas City going to lose back-to-back home games? Remember they lost to Detroit last year? Yeah, it could happen. I think there could be a false sense of security with Kansas City this year in that their regular season last year was not great. Really wasn't. But they won the Super Bowl anyway. So outside of maybe having a goal of going undefeated, and they don't have that goal, that they want to win the 3 straight Super Bowls, I could see Kansas City losing. And I like also betting on teams that lost to the team they're facing the year before in the postseason. So a lot of angles for me. Go to Baltimore to win the game. Is it Lamar? Listen, I don't think you're ever going to win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. I just don't. I just think come playoff time, you're going to get in a situation where you're going to have to throw the ball down the field, and he's yet to show that ability.
Well, that's the biggest question mark, right? He has the athletic ability, the ability to put pressure on opposing defenses on the perimeter. Can he be that marquee passer? And can he be like Jalen Hurts in the sense of Jalen Hurts answered and erased all the critics a couple of seasons ago, right? He's a better pocket passer, I believe, than Lamar Jackson at this point in his career. I look at this game a little bit differently, though, Scott, in regards to Kansas City. Last year, they got it done with Isaiah Pacheco and the ground attack. They were more methodical. Now you add Xavier Worthy in regards to that offense. They lost their week 1 matchup last year to Jared Goff in Detroit. Remember that? 21-20. That was a Thursday night game as well. This is an opportunity to open it up to showcase, hey, we have the better offense. We were still the better team last year, and we still have the best quarterback in the land. I expect Kansas City to push tempo. I actually lean to the over in the matchup. I think it's light at 46.5.
Yeah, I still like Baltimore. I've gone back. Yeah, I've gone back and forth on it, but looking at some of the numbers with Lamar, and I think listen, is Kansas City going to be excited to play the game? Obviously, right? But just give me that team that's got that little extra chip on their shoulder. That they not only lost last year, Joe, they played horribly in that game. How are they going to stop Henry in the backfield? That should open things up a little bit, although Baltimore's always had a good running game. But, give me the Ravens. Give me the team that's got that little extra chip on their shoulder from last season. Kind of a moment of truth. It's a big game, right? I mean, not only you go 1-0 versus 0-1, but, at the end of the year, AFC, these are the 2 or 3, 4 teams that are going to be battling for the best record. This goes a long way since the tiebreaker would be in your favor if you win tonight.
Well, I think for Baltimore as well, it's a gauge, right? How far are we away from actually challenging them. That's what Detroit wanted to see last year, right? They wanted to go toe-to-toe with the best, and once they knocked off Kansas City, they felt that they can play with any team in regards to the NFC, and they showcased that, right? They almost knocked off San Francisco in regards to the NFC Championship. So as a momentum builder, when you knock off the defending champs and back-to-back now, that is a huge momentum boost for Baltimore. And it comes down to, do they have that franchise quarterback, or do they have a quarterback that just compiles stats, right, differently than maybe Kirk Cousins, but needs to win a meaningful playoff game? It's the same thing for Lamar Jackson, right? If the chips are in the middle of the table and your team trails, do you want Lamar Jackson under center, or would you want Jalen Hurts? Would you want Pat Mahomes? Would you want Joe Burrow? Those are the questions that Lamar Jackson has to answer this year, and it starts in regards to this matchup. I think it's intriguing to say, I don't know how much of a boost Derrick Henry is, in the sense of what you see is what you get. Is that offense going to be that much better with Derrick Henry in the lineup? I don't think so.
Yeah, I disagree there. I definitely think it will be. But clearly Baltimore has a lot more riding on this game than Kansas City, because if you're a Ravens fan and you lose today, I don't know how you could seriously say you could win a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. When we come back, Scott and I will dive right into week number 1. Keep it where it is.
We give you sports gaming strategies and information at your fingertips whenever you want it.
Is this a great country or what?
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A Michigan judge ruled that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. must remain on the November presidential ballot.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
Kennedy suspended his campaign and endorsed former President Donald Trump in August. Since then, he has sought to withdraw his name in states like Michigan, where the race could be close. At the same time, he is trying to remain on the ballot in states where he is unlikely to make a difference between Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. Kennedy filed a lawsuit Friday in Michigan's Court of Claims against Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, a Democrat, in an effort to withdraw his name. Linda Soon, a former aide to New York Governor Kathy Hochul, schemed to advance the interests of China while working in New York state government, according to federal prosecutors. The indictment charges Soon with failure to register as a foreign agent, visa fraud, alien smuggling, and money laundering conspiracy. Her husband, Christopher Hu, allegedly facilitated the transfer of millions of dollars in kickbacks for personal gains, according to prosecutors.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
If I was to describe this sandwich in one word, I would say magical. Hi, this is Jamor, and the little thing that I love about the Chick-fil-A honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich is that extra oomph. I go back and forth from the spicy filet to the original filet. I get into the sweetness of the honey, then you have the extra kick from the spicy filet. The combination alone takes it over the top. It's award-winning.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy filet, now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonial.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
You may or may not be a good SportsGrid listener.
Test yourself.
If you've ever blamed your losses on forgetting to do the funky chicken under the last full moon,
You may not be a good SportsGrid listener.
get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, Lisi and Wetzel talking NFL action. Week number 1, we talked about the Thursday night game between Kansas City and Baltimore. Now let's turn our attention to Sunday. Scott, I think there's a handful of games that really wet the palate, per se, in regards to the betting perspective. We'll talk about the matchup in regards to Atlanta. We got Atlanta as a 2.5, 3-point favorite squaring off against Russell Wilson and Pittsburgh. This is intriguing, right? Because Atlanta's like the flavor of the day. Everybody buying into Kirk Cousins, everybody buying into Raheem Morris, and then on the flip side, I want to see what you get out of Russell Wilson, right? He's going to get the nod over Justin Fields. I've been very critical of Pittsburgh, thinking that Fields should be basically the starter throughout the regular season. He gives them the best option. But it is intriguing to see where Kirk Cousins is in terms of this matchup from a health perspective, because then we could gauge maybe potentially how Aaron Rodgers fares in terms of his week 1 matchup against San Francisco.
Yeah, people don't talk about it, right? He had the same Achilles injury as Rodgers. Now he's, 4 or 5 years younger, but still he's not in his 20s. He's in his mid to upper 30s, or 36, I think, 35, 36. So yep. he's got to come, so he's got to show a little something. Bijan Robinson in my fantasy draft was taking 3rd overall. It's come on, really? I mean, you think they're gonna? You think the Falcon fans are gonna give Arthur Smith a standing ovation? By the way, because he's the offensive coordinator now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Really, kind of a moment of truth. There's a few of these games, Joe, that is Pittsburgh going to be good with Russell Wilson? I mean, was he the issue? Not necessarily he, but the quarterback the issue with Pittsburgh. Great defense. If so, they got to win this game, right? If you're buying into Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcon Kool-Aid, well, at home against a Steeler team that's basically a 500 team, you got to win this game. And so really, it's kind of a moment of truth in week number 1. I'm going to side more towards Pittsburgh. Give me Russell Wilson. Give me the Steelers. Not in love with the play, but again, 3-point favorite. Tend to shy away from those home 3-point favorites. Little surprised it's not even more than that, but the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mike Tomlin, great against the spread as underdogs. So give me Pittsburgh at a field goal.
See, I lean to Pittsburgh as well, and what's intriguing, and the reason why I thought Justin Fields maybe potentially would start, he started his college career in Georgia, right? He's a Georgia kid in regards to that matter. That would have been a perfect fit in regards to coming back home. But I am curious, to your point, to see how Pittsburgh's offense looks. Are they going to be more methodical the way they were, for years in regards to just working down the field, utilizing the rushing attack? Or are they going to actually open it up with Arthur Smith? And you have Arthur Smith going up against his former team, right? So that's the matchup as well from that perspective, Scott. As much as I lean to Pittsburgh, and I think that the numbers suggest that as well, I think Pittsburgh has dominated straight up and from an ATS perspective over Atlanta. But the total is pretty interesting as well, because I do lean to the over. I think it opened at 43.5 for much of the offseason. We've seen some 42.5s, 42s across the board. But if you're Arthur Smith and you're Mike Tomlin, and this is your quarterback, Russell Wilson, you want to spread it out and you want to showcase, hey, this offense is different now with Russell Wilson under center, as opposed to what you had with Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, and of course Mason Rudolph last year. Because if that's the type of offense they're going to run, there's no way they're going to win this matchup and, more importantly, get over the 8.5 win total.
Yeah. And also, I think you're going to find a little something about Arthur Smith and his Steelers, right? Now, listen, I'm not expecting Rudy, Joe. They're going to carry him off the field, but the guy did get fired by the Atlanta Falcons. Now he's with Pittsburgh. If the Steeler offense in particular, really embrace this guy and like this guy, you can get a sense they're going to win one for the Gipper. If they come out and just don't show any emotion, no anything that for Arthur Smith, then it's kind of like, then I begin to wonder behind the scenes what's going on with the Steelers. They've not had a great run. You go back to the Ben Roethlisberger days and Todd Haley, right? For whatever reason, the offensive coordinator with the Pittsburgh Steelers has always had issues. So maybe he's a little different. They've always wanted to run the ball, though, even with Big Ben, as great as he was. They still, the number one MO for them was running the football. So I don't think that's necessarily going to change since Tomlin is there. But, they got to get out of the mode of winning games 17-14 and just start thinking about winning games 27-24.
They're 3.5-point favorites now, Atlanta. That's a huge number when you just think about the key number of 3 in regards to this matchup. We saw 2.5s for much of the offseason. Now money coming in on Atlanta. I'll tell you this. I've said it time and time again. I'm not buying into Kirk Cousins' big picture. He's never won a meaningful playoff game. Why now, coming off the Achilles? And more importantly, I don't believe in Raheem Morris. I think he's a great coordinator. I don't think he's a great head coach. Now, time will tell. If he proves me wrong, so be it. But again, I don't even think they're the best team in the division. I still think that Tampa Bay is the most complete team and might have the best quarterback heading into this season. So we'll see how that plays out. Here's another matchup, and it's our Dolphins taking on Jacksonville. Everybody loves Miami, I feel like, in this matchup. It's an interstate game, which Jacksonville always gets up for. Jacksonville knocked off the Dolphins in Europe a couple of years ago. You get a 48.5 win total in regards to this. I like Jacksonville here. I like Jacksonville outright, and I like the under 48.5. I think they run it. They keep Tua on the sidelines. Too many people buying into Miami, Scotty.
Well, I don't know about that. I am suspicious on why the line's only 3, depending on where you do your shop. Another 3-point home favorite. This is going to be one that I'm going to be betting on. The Dolphins don't lose games they're supposed to win, Joe. Tua tags, great again as a favorite, awful as an underdog, good against the mediocre teams like Jacksonville probably will be. Bad, awful against the really good teams like Jacksonville. No matter what happens, I don't think they're a really, really good football team. You're giving me Miami at home. Ty Hill, they're all going to be back. Waddle should be practicing as well this week. I like Miami, and I'm going to buy in. I like the Dolphins in this one.
Do you think McDaniel's a better coach than Peterson? I don't think so. And that's not to give Peterson much credit because they started 8-3 and fell off a cliff. But at least he won a Super Bowl. He wins games that at least matter. We'll come back. We'll talk more Miami, more AFC right here on Football Full Circle. Keep it where it is.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1994. Dolphins quarterback Dan Marino throws 5 touchdown passes in a Dolphins win over the Patriots. Marino set an NFL record with his 18th game of 4 or more TDs.
And Marino guns it, and it's caught, reaching out to make the catch.
Marino threw for over 61,000 yards and 420 TDs in his amazing career. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
New research reveals you can learn overnight by smelling strong odors combined with spoken instructions while you're asleep.
E equals MC squared.
Neurons associated with smell are hardwired to the brain centers of learning, memory, and emotion. While you're asleep, sniffing cigarette odor mixed with the smell of decomposing fish and rotten eggs makes you want to quit smoking. Stimulating the olfactory system, your sensory environment, smelling while sleeping may supercharge learning anything. Follow me at G Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Grady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge anywhere.
Even while the wife's talking to you.
If you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, Lisi and Wetzel breaking down NFL action week number 1. Left off talking about our Miami Dolphins. We left off talking about Mike McDaniel versus Doug Peterson. Which coach is better in a big spot? And I know last year Jacksonville started fast. They looked like the team to beat in regards to the AFC South. Started 8-3. And then, like I mentioned, fell off a cliff with Trevor Lawrence and the crew. But Mike McDaniel, Scotty, this guy gets, you would think we're talking about Bill Walsh and Don Shula combined, the way they put. Yeah, he's a great offensive game planner, great. But again, in a playoff environment against a team that matters, a la Buffalo, are you buying into Mike McDaniel and, more importantly, his team? Because even though I'm a Dolphin fan, we haven't won anything since the heyday of the undefeated season.
Yeah. I knew these numbers, but I didn't know the second one I'm going to give you. They haven't won a playoff game since 2000, Joe.
Yeah,
that is the
years.
That is the longest drought in the NFL. Not only is it the longest in the NFL, it's the third longest in all four major sports. Football, basketball, hockey, and NBA. The third longest. The Miami Dolphins, the fame, the history, 3 straight Super Bowls, back-to-back Super Bowls, and they have the longest winning playoff drought. And yet somehow or another, we got a multi-gazillion-dollar quarterback. We got a multi-gazillion-dollar wide receiver. We got a multi-gazillion-dollar now head coach who's supposed to be the greatest offensive mind in the history of mankind. And yet somehow or another, we can't win a division or win a playoff game. And yet everyone's getting contract extensions. If they don't win this year, then when are they ever going to win if they don't win this
That's
year?
my point,
right? I mean,
that's my point, right? The problem, and you know this as well as anybody, and here's the thing, I'll throw this out. The problem has been, on top of everything else that we have had in regards to the turnover, trying to find Dan Marino's replacement, right, ever since he got blown out by Jacksonville. The problem has been we've never had a legitimate running game in a playoff type of situation, and that goes back to the days of you want to throw Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams back there with Wannstedt and Jimmy Johnson, right? Our defense has never been a game changer. As much as we have had good players, we have never had the Aaron Donalds, we've never had the LTs, the player that could transform and take over a game in terms of a playoff type of environment to carry us when the offense isn't there. And the Killer Bees were good, but they weren't elite. And that is the problem. That's the problem that I have heading into this season. More importantly as well, Mike McDaniel, we have all these Ferraris, but we don't play blue-collar football. We can't run it when we have to. We can't get 3 yards when we need a first down. And then it starts at the top with him. He is a terror. He's a coddler. He's not a blue-collar coach like Andy Reid. He's not going to lace into his team. And that's why, again, I still think they're the second-best team in the division behind Buffalo.
Yeah. I don't even know if they're really even better than the Jets if Aaron Rodgers can perform the old Aaron Rodgers. I hope I'm wrong. I'm starting to buy into the Jets Kool-Aid. They got a ridiculously easy schedule.
Are you really?
Yeah, you look at their schedule. I don't know how they got an easy one because everyone else in the AFC's got a tough one. But
it's not that easy, Scott.
Outside of San Francisco.
No, they play the Rams. The Rams, I think, 10-7. You're telling me Stafford and that offense with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, and now Blake Corum can't challenge the Jets' defense? And their defense is better than good, I think. I mean, I broke it down yesterday. They also play the AFC South. Indy, Houston, Jacksonville. They go to Jacksonville, the Jets, if I'm not mistaken. That's not an easy road game for them. I mean, they could lose potentially 3 of those, lose both games to San Francisco and LA. There's 5 losses right there without playing the division. I'm going under. I'm selling Aaron Rodgers. I'm selling Robert Saleh.
I hope you're right. But the AFC East, Joe, has probably got the worst core head coaches, right? I mean, when you look at all the head coaches, between Boy Wonder with us, Salah he's clueless. He's lost here in New York. He's so overwhelmed, it's not funny. If Sean McDermott is your best head coach in your division, you don't know what you're going to get out of Mayo. I don't want to really label him as lost, but just, it's the Patriots.
First-year head coach. First-year head coach.
I give him the break, I suppose. But as far as like all the other, even like I said, if Sean McDermott's your best head coach, the guy can't win a big game to save his life either. Somehow or another, finding ways to lose. It's the worst core head coaches in the NFL. It is.
It really is. And Buffalo opens up as a 6.5-point home favorite over Kyler Murray and Arizona. When Scott and I come back, we'll break down that matchup in Buffalo. Big hype video coming out of Arizona. Keep it where it is. We're coming right back, baby.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. As the Chiefs start their quest for a third consecutive Super Bowl title, star tight end Travis Kelce says he has no plans of slowing down.
Physically, I feel just as good, if not more ready than I have been in years past. Just because you get more comfortable with your body, you learn things from the mistakes you made in years past and things like that. And you just constantly keep getting better and keep getting more aware of where your body's at. So
the Chiefs and Ravens open up the season at Arrowhead tomorrow night in a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. Baltimore coach John Harbaugh says there's still scores to be settled.
There's always carryover, absolutely. I mean, there's carryover for both teams. There's carryover strategically. There's carryover for the individual battles that guys are going to have that are still on the team.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Get big deals for days at Target's long weekend sale. Let's go. Like 20% off denim, tees, dresses, and shoes for the family. Then round out your barbecue with Doritos and Ruffles party-sized chips. They're on sale 2 for $7. Or get 30% off 12 packs of soda when you buy 3 with Target Circle. And save even more. Find new lower prices on many grocery and household items you love today and every day. Target's long weekend sale ends Monday. Restrictions apply.
I love it. Doors take us to summers away or winter adventures and afternoon getaways. Your dedicated Fidelity advisor can help you open those doors by working with you on a comprehensive plan to help you reach your wealth's full potential. Because doors were meant to be opened. Visit fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimum supply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
If you think the winning edge is about luck,
You're just not paying attention.
it's about strategies and odds and information.
Mostly it's about listening.
So when we say get the winning edge,
Basically, just keep it here.
this is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Continuing the conversation, left off talking about the AFC East. We left off talking about Buffalo and their head coach, Sean McDermott. I mentioned right before break that Arizona and Kyler Murray put out a hype video. Scott, did you see this in regards to their week one matchup? It's almost like, how the colleges put out, the uniform reveal, and they put out, this has Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals out there in the desert making their way to Buffalo for their week one matchup, making it sound like this is like, national championship or bust for Oklahoma. I mean, I'll send it to you in the break. You got to see, keep an eye out. They're 6.5-point dogs on the road, where we know that Buffalo dominates at home. They're a much better home team than they are a road team. Total is 48.5. But bigger picture before we get your breakdown. I actually told a couple of people, I told Kevin Walsh, I think that Buffalo this year could be a potential sleeping giant in the sense of there's no optimism, right? They got rid of Stephon Diggs. They got rid of a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball. They still have a plus 950 number to win the AFC, better 15-1, 16-1 odds to potentially win a Super Bowl. This might be the year that Josh Allen and the crew break through, not just in terms of week one, but big picture over Kansas City and Pat Mahomes.
I won't go that far because ultimately if they got into the postseason, then all the expectations would be back on them. But I could see them being a little bit of a surprise, because people, as you said, aren't expecting anything out of them. They're not idiots, right? I mean, you can't get rid of basically your entire wide receiving core without thinking you have something behind them. From a fan standpoint, we haven't heard of these guys, but there's no way the coaching staff would do that, right? I mean, you wouldn't think so. I'll say this about the Arizona, Kyler Murray, 25-15-2, Joe, against the spread as an underdog for his career. 11-5-2 as 4-point or more underdogs as they are here. Goofy stat, but you would think Arizona, East Coast, early game, that's trouble, right? Man, not for Kyler Murray. 11-3 against the spread while playing on the East Coast. So for whatever reason, he's able to adapt. And then Buffalo as 4-point favorites or more, again, as they are, 8-16-1 against the spread. So you got positive stats on Arizona's side, negative ones on Buffalo's side, yet the line is going a little bit higher. This was 5.5, and now you say it's up to 6.5 now.
Yeah, I see 6.5, 48.5 juice to the under, minus 112 on FanDuel. Now, remember last year, Gannon, first year head coach, he comes out, no Kyler Murray. He's hurt. He did it with smoke and mirrors with Josh Dobbs and overexceeded expectations for the most part. They were very competitive from the ATS perspective, especially in September. Knocked off Dallas as an 11.5, 12-point dog, went toe-to-toe with Daniel Jones in New York, right? They had that 20-0 first half
the Eagles, too.
Right, and they beat the Eagles as an 11.5-point dog. That was later in the year. I know because I was on them. They had a 17-6 first half lead after they picked off Kyler Murray and fell off a cliff in the second half. Thank you, Nick Sirianni. Appreciate that. Thank you for that effort. But so I think the perception is that in year two now, with a healthy Kyler, especially in terms of this matchup, and then you mentioned the great numbers from the ATS perspective, you're getting a discount, right? When do you typically see Buffalo against an inferior opponent lay less than 7, right? And we talked about 5.5 and 6s for much of the offseason. As long as it's under 7, Scotty, I'm going to lay it. I actually think this is one of my better picks for the weekend. Like Buffalo, I think they make a statement. And keep an eye out for James Cook this year. He can be utilized in the short to intermediate passing game. Even though Keon Coleman's supposed to be the passing attack, maybe Josh Allen and the offense check down a lot and utilize those tight ends even more this year.
All right. I don't know if I'm going to lay that, but I'd put him in a 6-point tease. That I definitely would do. Get him down to pick him. Yeah, I don't think they're going to lose, but I don't like laying basically a touchdown. I know that's a little bit less than a touchdown, but you know what I mean. I don't like laying 6 point. That's a lot of points, especially when I threw out those against the spread numbers. But put them in a tease, 2-team 6-point tease. That I'll do.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the game that I love. My favorite game on the board, and you're going to be like, how could you pick that? New Orleans and Carolina, okay? New Orleans right now, back down. Now, money coming in on Carolina, believe it or not. It was 4.5 a day ago. It's down right now at home, minus 3.5. Last time they played was at the end of the regular season. Last year, New Orleans gets the 3-point win, 20-17. You have Dave Canales, first-year head coach that comes over from Tampa Bay, where it was the offensive coordinator. Dennis Allen, dead man walking in New Orleans. Derek Carr, the fan base hates him. They're laying 3.5, minus 215 on the money line with a 41.5-point total. This is my best bet. I said week one. I like Carolina, but I'll tell you what, Scott, over the total. Points. My favorite total on the board.
I don't know. How could you? How? Carolina, first off, has been an underdog in 20 straight games, 29 of their last 30. I know it's last year, but they were shut out in back-to-back games to close out the regular season. They didn't have a snap. Now, they won 2 games, but both games they won on last-second field goals. They did not take a snap the entire season in the fourth quarter with the lead. You got a quarterback who couldn't spell QB if you spotted him the Q as far as his playing ability is concerned, and you're going to not only take Carolina but take the over. This would be the 17-16. Maybe Carolina loses and covers, or 10-7. But how in the world is this going to be Carolina covering in the game going over?
Well, preach. Keep preaching, brother. More negativity. Keep giving me that. That's exactly what I want to hear. And I talked about who were the 2 hottest quarterbacks in regards to the NFL at the end of the regular season last year. It was Jordan Love. We talked about his performance in the playoff win over Dallas. From November through the playoffs, he averaged 270 plus with 20 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, right? The other hottest quarterback was Baker Mayfield. He almost knocked off Detroit. He knocked off Jalen Hurts and put up a 32-point performance at home against that defense. He averaged 289 passing yards per game, Scotty. You want to know why? Because of Dave Canales, because of his scheme. And that's the difference that he brings. I tell you this, there's 2 head coaches that I think are human anchors for their respective teams. One happens to be Matt Eberflus for Chicago. You want to know the other one? Dennis Allen in New Orleans. They both will be human anchors. They don't know how to coach offense. And just because they're good defensive coordinators doesn't mean they win matchups.
I get that. I'm even thinking about putting New Orleans in my survivor pool.
Oh, it's a lock!
And
it's a lock now. I got it.
Derek Carr, 3,300 yards passing. He's hit that 9 straight seasons. I know Dennis Allen stinks. I get that, but he's the defensive guy. He's not the offensive guy. I mean, they beat Carolina twice last year. I think it was 30-10 when they beat them at home as well. There's no way. Yeah.
They opened early with them. They killed them on the road in Carolina. And then I believe the last game was 20-17. That was at home in New Orleans. That's when they were still fighting for a potential playoff spot. I have to double check. It might be reversed, but I do know that they beat them both times. Listen, last year, and again, we talk about Bryce Young's development, right? In regards to his totals. Keep in mind, prior to the season, Bryce Young had one of the higher touchdown totals out of all the rookie quarterbacks. Certainly had a higher total than C.J. Stroud in terms of touchdown passes. I believe his number was 22.5. When you look at his development, that was all Frank Reich. He was trying to force the square peg into the round hole. It was my way or no way. He forced him into formations that were against his strengths. Things will be different this year. Mark my words. Carolina will potentially get over their 5.5 win total this season. More NFL coming right back.
No way. No way.
We are the unfair advantage for news, odds, and information on daily sports events.
The key word is unfair.
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A Michigan judge ruled that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. must remain on the November presidential ballot.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
Kennedy suspended his campaign and endorsed former President Donald Trump in August. Since then, he has sought to withdraw his name in states like Michigan, where the race could be close. At the same time, he is trying to remain on the ballot in states where he is unlikely to make a difference between Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. Kennedy filed a lawsuit Friday in Michigan's Court of Claims against Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, a Democrat, in an effort to withdraw his name. Linda Soon, a former aide to New York Governor Kathy Hochul, schemed to advance the interests of China while working in New York State government, according to federal prosecutors. The indictment charges Soon with failure to register as a foreign agent, visa fraud, alien smuggling, and money laundering conspiracy. Her husband, Christopher Hu, allegedly facilitated the transfer of millions of dollars in kickbacks for personal gains, according to prosecutors.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com. Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, Lisi and Wetzel breaking down week number 1. We left off talking about the NFC, New Orleans and Carolina. I love the total in regards to that matchup. Scotty thinks I'm out of my mind in regards to that game playing out. But a couple of notes around the NFL. Kyle Pitts, supposedly, Scott, dealing with a hamstring injury. He's limited in practice today. That could hurt the offense especially if he's not there and 100%. If a hamstring lingers, it cannot just affect one game, but multiple games throughout the regular season, especially for a tight end, hybrid type of wide receiver. Change your assessment in any way if Pitts potentially is limited in regards to that ball game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it doesn't change it because I like Pittsburgh anyway, but I certainly like that. This Falcon team is, I could see that. I don't see them being a 9-8 football team, Joe. It's either going to work or it's not. They're either going to go 11-6 or 6-11. To me, I'm kind of leaning more towards the 6-11. Between the Michael Penix stuff, which I still think was a bad thing for them to have done. I think that's going to linger on with Kirk Cousins. If you're Kirk Cousins, you're ticked off about that. Presents a bad situation in that locker room. I'm rooting for Raheem Morris, Hofstra guy. Used to do some play-by-play when he was on the team many moons ago. So I'm rooting for them. I really am. But boy, that's you can't get out of training camp healthy. You already got issues. I don't think they win. I really don't. I'll give you a game I really like. I know this is going to be goofy, right up your Carolina and New Orleans alley. How about the New York Giants getting 1.5 at home against Minnesota? Who's Sam Darnold to be laying 1.5 on the road? He is awful. You remember the ghost thing, right? Again, when he was at the Jets with the Patriots, he's 21-35 as a starter, 16-26 as an underdog. So he doesn't win games when he's not supposed to. 9-19 on the road, so he doesn't do well on the road. And the Giants. They're giving you 2,800 yards passing for Danny Nichols, as I like to call him. Now, I'm not a fan of his at all, but 2,800 yards for a quarterback who, unless he gets hurt, which, he can say that about anybody, is going to play every game. He's not going to get benched, I don't think, right? So how's he not getting over 2,800 yards? That's 164 yards passing a game. And how are they not beating Minnesota?
Right. Well, the concern is the injuries, right? I mean, he's had 2 neck injuries. You don't know what you're going to get in regards to, does he get pulled if he's ineffective? The Giant fans and knowing that Dable potentially is on the hot seat in the sense of if you have Bill Belichick.
He is.
And again, that is the biggest problem. I thought he did a great job in regards to year one, but he overexceeded expectations. And in New York, that's always like kryptonite, right? You set the bar so high that New York fans now can't allow you to regress. They won a playoff game 2 years ago, and ever since then, it's been a slow decline. I will say this is not one game I really like, Scott, because, yes, as bad as Sam Darnold has been as a starter, where's he coming? He's coming back home to MetLife. Wouldn't you love to rub it into Jet fans in regards to look at what you passed up on in regards to going up against a pathetic team in terms of the New York Giants. Giants don't have a dominant defense, as we know. They got the best wide receiver on the field in regards to Justin Jefferson. So if I'm Sam Darnold, why don't I go for broke in terms of this matchup? I mean, it wouldn't shock me that Minnesota won. It wouldn't shock me if the Giants pull the game outright as a plus 106 underdog. I will say this in relation to Daniel Jones. The weapons are actually there, Scott. I mean, we talk about it. They're inexperienced, right? You don't have that CD Lamb or that, Justin Jefferson veteran, but you have Wan'Dale Robinson. You have Malik Neighbors. You have Jalen Hyatt. I mean, you have Slayton. That's an experienced guy. It's not like he's got terrible wide receivers. If they choose to open it up and that's the game plan, he could put up numbers. The question is, does Dable have confidence in Daniel Jones? And is he going to utilize him more in regards to the RPO game when the guy can't stay upright for 17 games in the regular season?
Well, I'm gonna use that to my advantage, and then they're gonna have to stop calling, bootlegs and quarterback sweeps and everything else like they've done, which I understand. That's how they were so successful 2 years ago. But I'm thinking, all right, we got to protect this guy. And while yes, you could hand the ball off a lot more, but I think their ways of protecting him is just not doing what I just said. Keep him in the pocket, throw the football. Maybe not throw bombs, so you don't have to hold on to the ball for 4 seconds before you throw it, but. 2,800 yards. Again, that's 164 yards a game for a team that you figure is going to give up a gazillion points because their defense isn't any good. So they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. It's the bet you make. I told you this. I looked at this last year, and in the end, basically the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, the running backs that stayed healthy hit their numbers with the boys in Vegas. The ones that didn't. Right. So you're not really betting on him. Will he hit 2,800 yards in all these quarterbacks? You're betting on them. Will he stay healthy? There's a certain number of quarterbacks that I wouldn't bet. Tua Tags I wouldn't bet. Matthew Stafford I wouldn't bet. You probably should put him in that category, but I think I'm going to.
See, I would take a shot on Stafford. I believe, and I know last year, think about it, that was the concern. I would take a shot on Stafford. Here's a game I really like, and I want to get your take on it. The Raiders and Chargers. I love this game, okay? And I know it's Harbaugh, it's Herbert. Everybody's buying in and drinking the Kool-Aid. Kumbaya. They're hanging out in the corner with the velour sweatsuit and the headbands, right? I love the Raiders outright over the Chargers week 1. Give me a little Gardner Minshew in your life. This total is 40.5, Scotty. 40.5. Are you kidding me?
Gardner Minshew, 1 and 14.
I don't care.
1 and 14 straight up last 15 games as an underdog, which he is here, Joe. He does not win games he's not supposed to. Jimmy Harbaugh, I know it's San Fran, 4-0 in season openers. Chargers win and cover.
Oh, it's a lock now, Scotty. I love it.
Lock.
We'll come back. We'll talk more. Dallas and Cleveland coming up next right here on Football Full Circle.
For the record, we love sports gaming. Always have.
That's why we never dated in high school.
Enhance your life.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, wrapping up the hour. It always flies when Scotty and I talk college and NFL action. We talked about a majority of the games for Sunday. It's always good to get different opinions, different takes in regards to the breakdown. That's the way I like to hear it. We'll break down, obviously, Thursday night's game tomorrow and Friday night as well. Crazy slate of action. But we haven't really talked about Caleb Williams in Chicago. Huge optimism, 8.5 win total. I still can't believe I broke down the stat. They're 15-1, Scott, to win the NFC. Like, what am I not missing here? 15-1. When Tampa Bay and Baker made the playoffs, they got a playoff win under their belt. They're at 35-1 to win the NFC, and Eberflus and Chicago are in the area 15-1 with a rookie quarterback. He's got the least experience in the division, and that includes old man Sam Darnold. You call him gutless, that's fine, but he's still there. Jordan Love, that led his team to a playoff win, right? I mean, what am I missing? And obviously Jared Goff that went to a Super Bowl. So, I mean, I'm missing something. 8.5 win total and 15-1. This team should be 30-1 to win the NFC.
Well, they have some weapons, right? And this is the CJ Stroud
with the
effect.
weapons.
They have some, right? If you're going to tell me the Giants have some, then you have to admit at least the Bears have some, right? But this is the CJ Stroud effect. They think every single quarterback's going to come in and be CJ Stroud. You know, what that guy did last year was just, it's phenomenal on paper anyway, but it's even more so knowing that he was a first-year quarterback. First-year starters, 4-21-1 straight up over the last several years. 7-28 against the spread. I mean, they don't win. They generally don't, let alone win the division. They don't win week one. I don't necessarily think they're going to be that good either. It's a lot of optimism. You know, they finished up last year strong. They see Caleb Williams. They see the USC highlights. Did okay in the preseason in the limited action that he saw. They should be able to beat Tennessee, though. I will say that. But are they going to win that division at 15-1 odds to win it all? No, I don't see that. I think that's a crazy price.
All right, but I have to be honest with you. You know, I was never high on Will Levis, but, you know, I have the better quarterback in regards to experience. Will Levis at least played a full season.
5 games last year?
It doesn't matter. He still played. This is his rookie. This is his first game under center. Caleb Williams, I understand he threw 72 touchdowns and 10 interceptions over 2 years in USC, Scott. But he still threw 3 interceptions against an above-average defense with your Notre Dame Fighting Irish and looked like a deer in the headlights. They got blown out of that game. What's the most meaningful game Caleb Williams won in regards to his career in college? And that includes Oklahoma, the win come from behind over Texas. I mean, come on now. We're giving this guy, like, you know, great accolades in terms of compiling stats. It's still his first game under center against a quarterback that at least battle tested last year, knocked off our Miami Dolphins. I don't love Will Levis in any regard, but you want to give me 4.5 points in regards to a week one matchup? I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to pass on. I can't put American money on Tennessee and Will Levis. I just can't. I just maybe you don't bet Chicago, but I think he's at home too, a little more comfortable setting at home versus being on the road. I think they're going to go semi-conservative with him, which you can do with that Tennessee offense, right? You don't have to go into that game thinking you got to put 27 on the board. You can think, all right, we'll take it easy with this guy. You know, let's aim for 20. I think the Bears win. I think it's like 21-14, 21-10, something like that. I think they cover too.
I tell you what, I love a lot of dogs here, which is scary in regards to, you know, what we talked about. I think the one matchup where I don't like a dog or do not like a dog is Cincinnati, and we're seeing fluctuation in regards to that market. It opened at 9.5 and 9 for much of the offseason. We talked about Jamar Chase not being in that lineup, now down to 7.5. Right here on FanDuel, total is 40.5. I don't see any way with Jacoby Brissett, New England makes this a game. You want to give me the 2 points of discount? I'll take it. I think Cincinnati blows them out, and that's if Chase is not there. I don't care. It's all Joe Burrow in regards to the week one battle.
Yeah. You know, if you're going to bet on New England Patriot games, Joe, then you bet the unders, right? Maybe even team total unders. Their offensive line is atrocious. Brissett is mediocre at absolute best. They have no wide receiver. I mean, that is just a train wreck. I do love their under 4.5.
Yeah, we'll see how that week one matchup plays out. For Scott Wetzel, our great producer, Denny Ohlers, I'm Lisi. We'll be here back tomorrow breaking down the Thursday night game right here on Football Full Circle. Have a great day.